rejects them into an object. So the area where men...
I'm watching this lecture that Warren Farrell's giving in the 90s. I see some women in the crowd, and a lot of them have their hands folded, and there is a little bit of uncomfortableness by being a woman in a crowd of people while the speaker's talking about how men are oppressed and women have it so great. It kind of puts you on the defensive as a woman. And understanding that I feel that way makes me wonder, are men having their arms crossed, listening to a feminist speaker talk about how men have all the power and women are oppressed? Are men feeling like, what are you talking about? I don't have power and we have it pretty shitty on this side of the grass too?
In 2012, Dr. Warren Farrell was speaking on behalf of men's issues at the University of Toronto in Canada. A feminist group protested the event.
Be fucking ashamed of yourself. You're fucking scum. You are fucking scum. Fucking rape apologist, incest supporting, woman hating, fucking scum.
Is there someone else that you like?
Fucking scum. Yeah, just another...
I just want to listen to someone else's opinion. I'm not even on a side here. I just listen to as many people as I can.
You know what, though? Why would you pay money to fucking support a fucking rape apologist if you weren't fucking one?
I never heard him say anything that was...
Well, it's fucking scum. Who do you serve? Who do you protect? Who do you serve? Who do you protect? You're fucking scum. Fuck you. Raise your side of me. Fuck you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm Cassie.
You're Cassie. Oh, for some reason I thought you were a male, which I'm just delighted that you're a female.
Well, thank you.
Very glad to meet you.
Yeah,
Come on in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But Farrell wasn't always so attentive to men. In fact, for years he focused almost exclusively on women's issues, rubbing shoulders with feminist leaders like Gloria Steinem. And he's still a card-carrying member of the National Organization for Women.
I believe that women cannot hear what men do not say.
And he's got a lot to say to both men and women in his provocative new book, The Myth of Male Power.
I was making a very significant amount of money speaking around the world on behalf of women's issues alone. I went through a period of forming men's groups. And then when I listened to them, I thought, well, gee, this will be really helpful to present to audiences so that they can understand not only women's side, but men's side too, because I was really totally in the feminist camp. And immediately I saw my standing ovations drop. I started hearing that there was people saying, don't invite him there, to speak with us. And pretty soon I had, very few college and university speaking engagements.
How did you originally get involved with feminism? Where did that all begin?
I was doing my doctorate in political science at NYU in the late 60s, and the women's movement surfaced. And I started to say, this is the most exciting thing I've ever heard, because I'd heard of civil rights, gay rights, but suddenly women were saying, I don't want to be confined to just being a homemaker or a secretary. And so it's like, why shouldn't women be encouraged to do everything they possibly can do? And at that point in time, I saw a lot of women marrying men that they weren't completely in love with, but the man earned a fair amount. And so I thought, that's just a form of prostitution extended over a lifetime. How depressed that must make a woman. And it's not going to be good for a man either. He never knows whether he's loved for who he is or loved for what he has. And he's afraid to give up producing because he's afraid to lose love. And so women who were successful, to me, appeared to be women who would free men from having to be all, wrapped up in just being the only breadwinner and supporting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, which, it's one thing to support yourself. When you're supporting 5 people, you don't have the freedom to question your boss because you're supporting 5 people.
The first issue of feminism was to say, just because I'm a woman, maybe I don't want to spend my life raising children. Don't force me into that role against my will. So they looked at men and said, well, you're not forced to raise children. You don't have any issue. But for men, the traditional sex role was not raising children. For us, the traditional sex role was to be a provider, a protector, and to initiate relationships. Each of us has traditional sex roles. Don't force us to carry out those traditional sex roles.
We have the same rules set up for men that they've always lived by, that you need to protect and provide at any cost. But we've changed everything where it concerns women. They now have access to everything men have always had access to education, to work, to whatever they want to do. But they're not the ones driving the semis. And they're not the ones in the coal mines. You don't hear the National Organization for Women complaining that there is just not enough female ditch diggers. It is still men carrying the lion's share for what it takes to operate and maintain this society. And it is still the expectation that if somebody's going to go down with the ship, it's going to be men.
Flexibility in roles is where we should be all headed. Any men's rights activist that I would support the portions of the women's movement that is encouraging women to have more flexibility in roles.
So where do the men's movement and feminism disagree?
Well, only on the fundamental belief that the women's movement says men are the oppressors, that we are involved in a patriarchal world in which men invented the rules to benefit men at the expense of women.
But don't we live in a patriarchy? When most of the world's nations still have never had a female leader. And less than 5% of CEOs of Fortune 500 companies are women.
You have to look at this in a larger perspective. Patriarchy is the result of gender roles and not the vice versa.
Traditionally, women's power and responsibility has been in the reproductive sphere, while men's power and responsibility was in the productive sphere. You have to reproduce to continue the species, and you have to produce to feed people so that they can reproduce. So, it's like they work together.
And most cultures divvied up roles because women were responsible for childbirth and were more likely to breastfeed. They're not more likely to, they did the breastfeeding. They tended to be involved in the role of raising children. Men tended to be involved in the role of raising money or making a killing of the animals or making a killing on Wall Street. But those were our obligations.
So that's why industry was male-dominated and government was male-dominated, because that was our job.
And so what we call patriarchy is men giving into the expected roles that they're supposed to give into, and many of those roles are very harmful. Working exceptionally long hours, difficult hours, dangerous jobs, getting killed on the job, even politics a lot of people describe as masochism.
Imagine what it takes to be a successful politician. Imagine how much of your personal life that you give up, how much you work, how much privacy that you sacrifice, how much freedom in your day-to-day life that goes out the window. There are more men willing to do those things than there are women.
We got 10 for everybody.
But also, just because men are the ones, for instance, writing the laws in general, doesn't mean that the laws are protecting men.
You hear about patriarchy, right? All the evils of the world's from patriarchy, but we're the ones dying, you know? And we die for you guys, you know, to protect our families, our friends.
In every society that's ever existed, women have had privilege and protection that men did not.
For example, we never hear about how men were excluded from the Forced Labor Convention of 1930 for years. The Forced Labor Convention was an international treaty that banned slavery and forced servitude, but it made an exception for able-bodied males ages 18 to 45. Eventually, they got rid of that, but there was still an exemption for prisoners and military, which is 90% male.
Stop pretending that you're oppressed and men are your oppressors. It's a lie, and it's a hurtful lie, and it's a hateful lie, and it's wrong.
You talk a lot about the red pill in A Voice for Men. What is the red pill?
Oh, it's sort of a cultural slogan. It comes from the movie The Matrix, where the character Neo is given the choice between a red pill and a blue pill.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
And if he swallows the red pill, the scales will be peeled back from his eyes. He will see everything that he hasn't been able to see. And if he takes the blue pill, he'll just go back to sleep and live in his sort of unaware, semi-comatose state forever and probably be a lot happier. It's a pretty apt analogy.
So what is the blue pill in this world?
Well, the blue pill is the paradigm that most people live by, that men have all the power, that they've always had all the power, that domestic violence is a problem that's committed by men against women only, that sexual assaults are only committed by men against women, that women don't make the same money for the same work as men. Teach men not to rape. Only men can stop rape. Men commit domestic violence. We need to stop violence against women instead of just stopping violence. That is feminist training.
The MRAs say that we live in a blue pill world where women are victims, men are perpetrators, and it's all a lie. And that we're brainwashed to believe this, and that it's not true, and that men are slaves in this world, and women are... I don't think women are necessarily the puppet masters, but I think they're saying that women have the easy way out, and men are, they're given medals and statues and written in the history books to justify them dying and being slaves to work or being used to progress societies. And I've believed for so long that I'm at a disadvantage for being a woman, and that I have to work harder than everyone else, and I have more to overcome, and I have more to prove just because of my gender. But the MRAs are saying that this is all a lie, and that guys are actually the ones that are disadvantaged and discriminated against. And actually, the more I learn from him, the more I think, thank God I wasn't born a guy. Because I don't think that the expectations on men is good or healthy. I mean, they have so much pressure to succeed and to be strong and to stand up and protect others and to put their lives on the line. I don't think I would want that responsibility. But, 50 years ago, no, I wouldn't have wanted to be a woman. But now, I mean, maybe just it's right now that the tides are changing and women are have the better deal. Well, no, I don't know. And then sometimes I think the MRAs are just duping me and giving such a strong pitch about what they believe in to convince me of something that's actually just some out there theory that men are discriminated against and women have the advantage.
Yes, this is Cassie J. It's regarding a documentary about the men's rights movement, and we're looking for feminist voices now to speak in the documentary. Feminist majority.
Yeah, hold on just 1 second.
So I realized, okay, I need to bring some feminists into the mix to make sure that we have that side spoken for.
I was researching rape culture, and so that's how I stumbled across a website called voiceformen.com. So some of the people that we've already interviewed on the MRA side is Paul Elam with A Voice for Men.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with him?
Oh, I'm familiar with him. I've never met him.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've spent a significant amount of time and energy denouncing me, so I figured I might as well have a look at what they say.
Yeah, really, the men's rights movement is part of the backlash.
The backlash?
To feminism. The men's rights movement really got going as women began to make gains, and some men have felt threatened by the opportunities that have been opened up to women. And I don't know if it's because some of them feel threatened that they now have to compete with a lot more people for their jobs. They now can't get into the best schools if a woman or a girl has better grades. Think about it. Grandfather's generation probably had it pretty well, right? All of his needs, his shirts were ironed, all of that was always taken care of. Well, grow up. Realize the world has changed. And as much as the MRAs would like things to go back to the way they were, and use the argument that women have an advantage now, no person looking at the data can possibly say women have an advantage. We're just beginning to get a level playing field here. It's not tilted in our favor, I can tell you that. And they know it. They know it. But it's the constant distortion of the data. It's the spinning of a situation to make it look like women are somehow getting ahead, getting an advantage they don't deserve. It's part of the backlash.
Political organizing comes from a feeling of victimization, which is why the men's rights movement makes that claim that men are the victims of discrimination. But it doesn't have much traction Because, you know, you look around and it's hard